Tonight, I am a horror and wine channel because I need wine for this video. I'm back, and I am back for a good reason, which is to discuss a show that I loved for so many years, and a show that crashed and burned so horrifically bad. I'm just gonna ramble about why this season of Stranger Things, season 5, crashed and burned so bad, and also giving two different perspectives. One, me being a screenwriter, and the other of me being an avid D&D player. I have been the DM for many campaigns. Sorry, I'm letting my geek out way too soon. Sorry. But because of that, I definitely have a lot of thoughts, and also just as somebody who has watched the show from the very beginning, absolutely loved it, grew with the cast, grew with the show, and was let down horrifically. And I think this is one of those endings of a show that gonna leave a bad taste in people's mouths for quite a while, like a long time. On top of it just being so bad that I don't know how it was as bad as it was. I genuinely don't. I have some theories and maybe some proven theories that we're gonna talk about. And I have sat on this for a while. I know I'm very late to discussing this, but late for a good reason, which is not a good reason. I just wanted to sit on it for a long time, really think about it, stew on it. I watched a lot of content on it, mostly because my friend kept sending me stuff on it, because she is equally, if not even more, angry than I am. Understandably so. And so I have just, it's been like a bubbling up of anger, and I think that the longer I've sat on it and really thought about it, the more I'm like thinking of different things throughout the show that I think keep coming back to me in random moments of my day where I'm just like, God, how did I forget that too? Like, it just... So, we're gonna set the scene. Imagine you are sick in bed on New Year's, and you've had no plans the past 2 weeks because you've had the worst strain of the flu, you've been bedridden and quarantining, and the only thing that you have to look forward to is the Stranger Things season finale. Not just season, series finale. And you are expecting something amazing, beautiful, something that concludes the show, lets you go to sleep at night and sleep like a baby, and leaves you just so happy. And and you have the expectation, like, maybe I won't like something about it, but at least it's the Duffer brothers. They do such good work. How could they possibly mess up the finale that they've had several years to work on, okay? So imagine my surprise when I am watching the show, and then I'm bawling my fucking eyes out. And then I guess I somewhat smile at the very end, and then I'm like, wait, that doesn't even make sense. Like, what is happening? And then the show's over. nothing left. That's a series finale, no other content. The series finale that will go down in the books as being so bad that people had so many conspiracy theories that there was another episode. How do you fuck up a show that bad that the conspiracy theorists on TikTok came up with better plot points than the ridiculously highly paid writers of the show? Like, I don't understand. And here's my thing. I will say, as a screenwriter, I do understand that they were probably under immense pressure. I can't imagine having a budget as high as they did and having, I've never had one of my feature screenplays produced, so I don't know what it's like to have hundreds of people on a set relying on me. I mean, I've done smaller sets, but not to that degree, so I can't imagine. I'm gonna say that to say I can understand slightly why they were probably way overstressed. I think also there's a big issue that I have seen in writers, which is ego. I think that especially the documentary that was released showed a lot of insight on that, of other people on the sets trying to give advice and ideas, and they were just completely rejected and thrown away. And I think that that is one of the worst things that you can do as a writer, is not take any ideas or criticism when writing. I can partially understand it. I think, like, us creatives, we have our ideas, and a lot of us are very strong-willed and strong-headed on our ideas. But I think any good writer knows that having a writer's room and a group of creatives working together is far better than a sole writer alone, or just two brothers alone. It helps to have other minds in there and other people giving feedback and ideas and actually taking those ideas, or at least considering them. Because, just jumping in, a very stark example is the final fight scene of them fighting the Mind Flayer, and Vecna, and there's no demogorgons, demodogs, demobats, nothing. That was so ridiculous to me. Like, that's actually something I don't understand how that was not implemented from two perspectives, one of which was, as in the documentary, somebody even said to the brothers, you have to have the demogorgons or something. And they were like, no, I think the big monster is really the cool thing. Yeah, the big monster, which we basically saw in, season 3? The mall season? Like, we basically saw that. A big fleshy monster. Like, I guess this was a step up. But not really. Like, the fight lasted 5 fucking minutes. There's just so many things to discuss. But that is one thing that I think is absolutely ridiculous. And also, from the perspective of D&D, which this show is very, very inspired by, and oftentimes references as foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is what I meant, of like, you know, a lot of times in the show, like the first episode, they'll have a D&D campaign that kind of foreshadows what's coming. That's like been a huge part of the show, and I think a beautiful part of the show. It's a big reason why I loved the show, because I played D&D, and I remember like Vecna's curse being introduced and me being like, oh, I feel like I already know where they're going with this. And even the introduction of the mind flare, I'm like, well, I already know all about mind flares, so I can predict that this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And so like it was really fun to kind of play along with it. But I think about a final fight in D&D, and I mean, yeah, I guess you could do a fight that's against like just the main boss or the final boss, but like that's boring and easy, honestly. If you have one monster against your party, that's easy. It's really easy, even if it's a Buffy final boss. It's still not strong enough to like overpower 4 players, you know, that probably are at that point in high levels in D&D. And I think a lot of times a good campaign ends with you have the monsters you've probably already fought, you have, you know, other new creatures fighting you, and you have your final boss, and there's probably also other deterrents or distractions happening to your strongest characters, because that's what makes for a very on edge final fight, because you don't know how it's gonna end, and they failed. That's so bad. It was a 5-minute long final fight that was so easy. And the thing that I want to talk about with that is my disappointment with the utilization of Will's character, because Will is introduced to us in the very beginning of the show with the lights and, you know, him being connected to the mind flare and connected to Vecna. There was the whole season where he had basically the mind flare within him and controlling him, and he was like a spy or a fly on the wall for Vecna, or the mind flare as we knew at that time. And when they tried to like get rid of it, they had to literally like burn it out of him with heat because he likes it cold. They did nothing for the final fight. I feel like that was such a missed opportunity, because again, that would have been a perfect moment to make the fight even harder. If Will was down, Will was being hurt, I think it would have made more sense, honestly, if Will ended up dying with the death of Vecna, or I guess if he was freed. But I think he should have at least either been in pain, or I think that it would have been a very interesting choice to have Will fighting for Vecna. Like, Vecna, because Vecna has still control over Will when he wants to. And I think it could have been a very interesting fight. You know, Will fighting Mike and 11. Like, that's brutal and sad. It's like, that could have been such a heart-breaking fight. That would have been so compelling for a story. Like, that was such a letdown. And I don't understand why they did not utilize that. And that's kind of a big thing throughout this season to me, is just like the lack of utilization of the things that they built up throughout the show. And a big other note going with that is the whole concept that they built around time, the numbers 12, they built up so much where they kept pushing and hinting like, oh, that we've been showing what's coming the whole time. You just had to look between the cracks and like really pay attention. You know, like the whole introduction of Vecna, he was always present. And I think like when they introduced him as a character, that was such an interesting season to me, because I was like, oh wow, they're like tying the whole show together. And it shows like, wow, they were actually thinking about this. I don't think that they were, because then we come to season 5 and all of these cool things that they've been building up, and all of these really probably set mistakes that they were making. I would just have to guess that people thought were like little Easter eggs to pay attention to. All of it was really for nothing. Like the whole scene of the kids at the table with Vecna, and there's 12 of the kids, and they're building up on this number 12. And I remember like before the season finale seeing so many things online of people being like, oh, number 12, it's gonna end with like time travel or something or something or something. And there were so many ideas, and I was loving it, because I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what they do. Like they have to do something crazy with this, right? Like they've built up all of these things. Why is he kidnapping these children? And how is he building this whole like other world outside of the Upside Down? That's another thing we're gonna get into that doesn't make any fucking sense. But none of it was for anything. And the Duffer brothers have even been asked about it, and they're like, oh, 12, it doesn't really mean anything, we just thought it was cool. Again, as a writer, I don't understand. Because just for an example, and I know I am not alone in this, because good writers oftentimes have like 40 to 50 drafts of a screenplay before they release it. And I know screenplays are different than TV. Regardless, I think it's still applicable to say good screenwriters do lots of drafts, and it's a lot of rewriting and really getting into your own story and making sure that everything makes sense, everything connects. And yes, I know, like, we watch movies all the time that are bad, and, it doesn't necessarily mean that the screenwriter was bad. Maybe it just, they didn't take enough time on the script, or maybe it was other issues. But my point is that it's so clear to me that there were not rewrites of this script, which is also made known in that documentary of like they started filming before they had the full script. That's insane. Honestly, that's insane. The amount of inconsistencies, errors that are going to be made. You don't have everybody all cohesive on the plan. But you're not giving the actors enough time to really prep, and let me just say, the actors still did amazing with the shit they were given. They still did amazing, which I'm not surprised, because they're all great actors. But it's not fair to them, because like they're given this material, and it's just kind of like, okay, well, I guess I have to work with this, because there's no time for me to even argue or like try to. And that's an important thing for actors. I think, a good director on a set would take the actors' feedback, because actors are playing the characters. And I think that, you know, again, it's like everybody on a set has good feedback to give. Everybody in their own roles can give, you know, hey, I think like maybe this would work better because of this reason. Like, it's all really good feedback, because again, as a writer, it's so hard to think of everything. And I get that. I do get it. I think my issue, again, is they had a shit ton of time, and they also had a shit ton of money and a shit ton of people that they had around them that could have helped them and were trying to help them. And they were just seemingly refusing to take any help or any guidance, feedback, anything. And it shows. I think it's so disappointing that, you know, even beyond the Duffer brothers and their very obvious mistakes, it makes me sad that like the higher ups allowed this filming to take place when it did, and that they, like, you know, handed this footage off to the editors and they're like, yep, we're working with this. Like, nobody stepped in and said, there's a lot of inconsistencies and you guys are not taking any feedback. This is a problem. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. I'm like, either they were all kissing the asses of the Duffer brothers. They just thought, like, even if it's shitty, at least we'll get money and, like, people to watch it. I don't know, but it also, I mean, it did so terribly among fans. Like, I don't understand how that could have at all been good for business. And, you know, I'll say, from just an entertainment standpoint, did I enjoy the season 5 finale and season 5 all in all? Yeah, I did. I think it was still entertaining. I think in big part because of all of the other people on that cast and crew. Like, I think actors, great. You know, just coming back to them was very comforting, and it was, you know, great to see those characters again. I think a lot of it was the nostalgia and the love for the characters and the actors, and you know, you have appreciation for set, you know, set design and effects and, you know, these different elements that are outside of the writing. I think that those things were as good as they could have been with the material that they were given. But there was a lot of writing fuck-ups, you know, outside of the final fight and the complete lack of drawing connections between any of these interesting things that they tried to introduce and just kind of threw away without even trying to, like, do something interesting with it. There's also a lot of writing issues with the other characters, one of which is the I think it's funny because even Sadie Sink has, like, talked about this in an interview, which is, like, the scene with Holly and Max, and, you know, they're in the, is it the upside, I guess it's kind of the upside down area with Vecna, and they're trying to get back to the real world, and they're having, like, a whole ass conversation that just goes on and on. The edits of that scene are fucking hilarious. It's so bad. It's so bad of writing. You're telling me, because Sadie Sink's, Max, she She literally talks about the moment when she could have escaped and she didn't have the chance to. Realistically, given that moment, she would have been like, Holly, just go out there, find your way, like, find something to bring you home. And then she would have ran. And that whole moment just lasted way too fucking long. And also the focus on Holly. I really liked Holly's character in this season. I liked, the actress. I think she did a good job, although I may say she maybe was a little dramatic for on screen, but that's my personal opinion. She is a kid actor, so I'm sure, but I still think she did a good job. Okay, I'm sorry. Don't get mad at me for that. Don't get mad. It just doesn't make sense why she was the focus of the show. She had so much screen time, and this is the season finale. Or not the season finale. Oh, that too. The series finale. The series finale. It should have been our favorite characters hogging the screen, because that's really what we were all watching for. I don't think that Holly's storyline was really even relevant when you come to the end. When you really think about it, what they ended up doing with the end, was there even a point for her whole storyline? Again, because it's him kidnapping these 12 kids and everything. It was all for fucking nothing, really. It was to take control of them. But there's nothing about the number that really was significant. It just really wasn't worth the screen time. I was very disappointed by that. I don't get why they went the route with that. Which is an issue I had with season 4 too, because season 4, I feel like, was where we start to see a decline in the characters. Mike is he's in season 4, but he's a shell of a person in that season. And I think that's where all of the theories of Byler came from. In my opinion, I feel like a lot of it started in that season because we see him so distant with 11, which is just weird. And they try to explain it of he didn't think he was good enough for her. And I'm like, I don't buy that. That's just, I feel like he'd still say I love you. I don't buy it. It doesn't make sense. I also just think they did nothing with his character that season. He was just kind of a bro. But Will's character, I think, too, was just, he was, a main character in the first season. And I think, they let down a lot of his characterization, too. And I also do, as many people do, have an issue with, the coming out scene that they did. I think it was weird that it was to everyone. I think it was just not realistic, and it was weird, and I again think it took up a lot of screen time at a very weird moment. In the plot, it was a very weird moment for that. And then I can't agree with the Byler people about Mike says friends. No. Best friends. And I do wonder if some of it was doing the queer baiting. It was a little icky to me. I think it was a beautiful moment between Jonathan and Will when, Jonathan just says I'm always here for you and I love you. That scene, because it was the undertone of that scene was he was saying I accept you and I don't want you to think that I think any differently of you. I still love you. That was a beautiful scene, and I don't think that they needed a whole coming out scene. I oftentimes personally think coming out scenes and shows just perpetuates the idea that people need to have a coming out. I think normalizing homosexuality, bisexuality, pansexuality, anywhere on the spectrum, I think normalizing it is normalizing the idea of not having to announce what you are and what you are not. I think I get that this show took place in 1980s, so not that exact year, in the 80s, so they are, it is an older time, and I know, I get it, but again, it's based in the 80s, but it is still through a modern lens, and again, I think that they did a great job with the scene with Jonathan, and I don't know why they needed this super long group therapy moment, which let's also discuss. One of the big topics of discussion was from that scene, which is when he mentions, oh fuck, I'm gonna forget the name of it. I'm already forgetting the cafe name. It's the wine, I promise it's the wine. The little shop that, like, his mom, I think, worked at, which was a convenience store, and apparently it used to be, like, a diner that had milkshakes, because he says, like, oh, and I wanna, like, I remember having milkshakes with blah, 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 and a lot of audience members on TikTok especially were pointing out, what are you talking about? They didn't have milkshakes at the convenience store. Like, that was a diner during Vecna's time. So does that mean that Vecna actually, like, this is all through Vecna's lens? Does this mean, like, and I understand why conspiracy theories came from that scene, because again, the Duffer brothers perpetuated the idea of listen and look at everything, because everything is there for a reason. They're the ones that perpetuated that. And then we have the moment about the milkshakes, and it doesn't make sense, and it's just a script error. And why was that there? Because they didn't reread their own script. They didn't keep notes on, timelines, like something like a diner turning into a convenience store. While it's a small detail in the world that they have built, it's a detail that they should have had in either a journal, on a whiteboard. Like, these are story building things that as the writer you should be the one to know. Like, the audience should not be the ones finding these kind of mistakes. And again, it's like, if it would have been a writing error, fine, but like, somebody on the damn set or in a writer's room would have caught that if they listened to anyone. And that's, like, again, just another blaringly obvious mistake. It just shows that they were not paying attention or really putting in the time or love for their own story, and that's just really fucking sad to me. I want to talk about Eleven's character. Season 5, the finale, I was sobbing at them killing her off. Which, yes, they leave it open at the end, but the reason they left it open, as the Duffer brothers have said themselves, was mostly because other people were telling them that they should, but they always had it planned that 11 would die in the end. That is what their intentions were. And I disagree with that. And that is another thing that I think shows their ego. I don't know who told them that that was a good idea, and I don't think anybody did. I think that that was something they were very stuck on wanting, and it doesn't make sense to me. Now, I have some ideas if they wanted to go the route with that, of like, you know, having some sort of bad thing come, like not having a perfectly happy ending. I feel like there's a couple different ways I would have gone about this. Either 11 loses her powers, you know, Vecna gets killed off, they blow up the Upside Down, and 11 realizes, like, I think my powers went with him. Because the entire reason why she had powers in the first place was because she had his blood in her. So, it doesn't really... It would make sense to me if they decided to do something where they have her lose her powers. I think they should have kept her alive, maybe let her have her powers. Or even just, you know, if she has to lose her powers, let her lose her powers, but let her go home with her family. Like, it's like the Duffer brothers recognize, like, oh, of course she has this fatherly bond with Hopper, and then she has her romantic bond with Mike. I'm sorry, Will was basically her brother for a while. Joyce was her mother for a while. Like, not her mother, but like a motherly figure to her for a while. This poor girl is just being taken away from all these people. It is not a good ending. And it's like, they make it like Hopper's moving on, and I don't buy that. Like, I think... And like they make it like, oh, like he was so sad about his own daughter, so now he's like seeing and respecting that 11 chose this for herself. And he's moving on. And I'm just like, no, I don't fucking buy that. That's bad writing. Also, just like the theory of her basically escaping. I'm like, okay, if you wanted to go that route, fine. I could maybe buy it, but she's not gonna just go on her own and never reach out to her family or friends again. I don't fucking buy that. She has Hopper that she loves dearly. She almost lost him, thought he was dead, and finally got him back. You think she's just gonna like go off and live by the waterfalls all alone? I don't buy that. And if so, which is the story that they either want you to think she died or she's all alone. This girl that was emotionally and physically abused as a child, never nurtured, never truly cared for. She didn't have any education. Like, she just started getting a life for herself, and they completely throw her character away. And that is just so disgusting to me. Like, it's... You built such a tragic and amazing character with this horrifically tragic background, but she's like persevered, and she, you know, builds up her powers with her trauma, and the way that they decide to treat this character is by she wants to sacrifice herself, which is not sacrificing herself. That's the thing that I also don't fucking get. The bad writing of them not showing what happens with the military in that scene. Like, after the Upside Down disappears, they just, like, pretend that everything, like, continued on after that. Everybody moved on. What do you mean by that? They murdered several, like, high up military people. You think that they were just like, oh, looks like the Upside Down's gone? I think the girl's just gone. Well, I think it's time for my Big Mac, so I'm gonna head out. Bye, guys. Let's do this again sometime. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, it's just, like, horrible, horrible writing. And I think it's even more funny because the Duffer brothers have been interviewed about this, and again, they have done the fucking, like, they probably left excuse. Like, they didn't even think about their own story. They did not even think about it. And again, that ending makes no fucking sense. Why? Why would these military people just leave? Why would they do that? Even if they are like, okay, I guess the gates are all closed or whatever, they're not letting all of them go. Are you kidding me? Like, there should have been a, like, gunfight. They have to, like, leave and hide for the rest of their lives, or they kill off these military people and somehow nobody else in the military or the government cares, so they get away with it and it just kind of goes under the rug. Or maybe they blackmail them and get them to leave. But it's like, again, if they blackmail them to get them to leave, you need to fucking show that. And what they blackmail them with? Because I'm like, it doesn't make sense that they just left. And again, how dare you kill off the character that was done the dirtiest in the show? Like, it just makes me so sad. And also, from a different perspective of, you know, being a girly with chronic major depressive disorder that has many times, very many times, thought about committing suicide, harmed herself, all of these things, that is such a, like, negative thing to show on screen with such lack of care. I think, you know, her basically being, like, peer pressured into wanting to kill herself, and then, like, her just giving up on herself, and then showing all of these characters just moving on like it's fine. Like, they really do just move on, and I think that is a very harmful way to show something like that. Like, if 11 did choose to harm herself in that way, to take her life, they should have showed the harsh reality of that, which is the community around her and the people that care about her the most are left with that suffering. And it's like, again, because, like, I get it, you know, you can write about these things or even experience them yourself and write about them, and, you know, your take on it is fair and valid. But I think that when we're writing material with sensitive matters like suicide, it's it needs to be taken more carefully. It needs to be thought out more. And that, again, it left me sobbing because I'm like, this poor character, I understand why she wants to off herself. I get it because, this character has been through hell and back, and she truly believes that there is no way out of this. And I get it. What I don't get is how they fumbled so hard with the rest of it. Like, there should have been, the moment with Hopper, like, it should have really been a moment for her to realize, like, oh, I have people that really love and care about me. Like, I can't just turn my back on them. And I get, like, she thought that she was doing more harm than good, but, like, then again, showing them all just moving on, and it's just so dark, and I don't think that was told in the best of lights. Yeah, I really did not like how that was told. And again, I don't want to sound, like a know-it-all, or like oh, I have depression, so I know how everybody feels about it and how everybody should talk about it. And like, I'm not trying to do that. I get it. I'm just saying, again, stuff like this should be handled a bit better on screen. And I think that this could have been a if they really wanted to go that route, like, that could have been a moment to really show the effects of what they were trying to go for. But they fumbled that, because of course they did. So I was very disappointed with that. Which I think I have about 2 more points that I want to talk about. One of which is the whole world building, because it makes no fucking sense. This is what doesn't make sense to me, and I think as a screenwriter, again, I'm disappointed, because as a screenwriter, like, I've written science fiction films before, and I remember one of which is about, like, a scientist, and she's doing vaccine research, and none of the shit I knew anything about, because of course I don't. I went to film school. But I had to research all of this. That was something, like, we're taught in film school. Do your research. You should always, like, learn as much as you can to really build upon your characters, make sure that what you're writing is accurate, and it will help you to really world build and create scenes and dialogue that are as realistic as you can get them with the resources you have, which nowadays is a lot of resources. The internet. So I did a lot of research. I did research on, like, different viruses, and I did research on, like, what's all of the symptoms and what are the acronyms for all of these. Like, I did a whole lot of research on a bunch of shit, and yes, is there probably mistakes in there? Absolutely. Like, I'm still not a scientist. I recognize that. The Duffer brothers very clearly did no fucking research on what they're talking about, because, again, they have such a cool concept. They have this world and the Upside Down, which they pitch as, like, an alternate dimension, which I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's a world that is existing in alignment with our own world, parallel with our own world, but there are these slight changes, and I think that you know, it's actually, like, to me, alternate dimensions and all of that, and even, like, metaphysics and all of the studies of dimensions is so interesting to me. So I think it was such a letdown when they had this, like, they discussed the whole, like, wormhole theory, which I think, you know, again, is a legitimate thing, but they didn't make it make sense, because the upside down is exactly like the world we are in now. All of the buildings that exist in our world are still there because it's a timeline that goes parallel to our own. This new world that they have, where Vecna's lair is not a dimension. It's not an alternate dimension, because it's not the same landscaping. It's like fully a separate planet is almost what they make it out like. And I remember seeing an interview with the Duffer brothers where they were asked about this, and they're like, yeah, I guess it could be, yeah, I guess another planet, yeah. Like, look up what you're fucking talking about. How they could just write all of these things, and it's like they had these really cool ideas, but they didn't put the work in to flesh the ideas out. If it was just that, if it was just, you know, a scene that was bad, if it was just a character arc that was bad, if it was, you know, one thing, I would be like, fine. There's so many fucking things they fucked up. Like, I don't get it. And I think, like, nobody should be excusing it, because, again, they had like $500 million just for the finale. Do you know how much fucking money that is? That's crazy. And it's just like, they had so much time to work on this. They had so many resources. They could have brought in the best of writers just to be in a room with them to write. They could have made something amazing, and they just fumbled and fumbled and fumbled. And was it still entertaining? Yes. But why? Because of the amazing set designers, cast, crew, your amazing editors, and, you know, the digital effects artist. So many things, like, there's just so many people that did amazing work that were completely outside of the Duffer brothers. And now I think I want to talk about one final big thing before I get on to, like, a couple just, like, tiny notes, more ramblings of things that came up in my mind. But my big thing that I want to really end on is the use of ChatGPT. Because a lot of people had suspected that it was being used for this season. And to no one's surprise, in the documentary that was released of the behind the scenes, it is seen in the documentary. They had like 4 or 5 tabs open of ChatGPT. That is so telling to me. And the reason is because, again, with all of these things, you think of the mistake with the world building. You think of some of the clunky dialogue, not even some, a lot of clunky dialogue, scenes that went on for way too fucking long, characters that were there, or characters that didn't quite seem like themselves, just weird moments, very cliche moments, unrealistic moments, some, again, corny ass dialogue, a lot of small errors and shit. That is a big telltale sign of ChatGPT and work. Now, I want to say, as a writer, I will admit that I have used ChatGPT while writing. However, I want to clarify that I have never used it to write dialogue. I have never used it to write a scene for me, scene descriptions, writing character description, nothing. I have never had it write anything for me, because anytime I have seen what it will write for me, it's fucking horrendous. It's bad. It's bad writing. And the reasoning for that is because you have to think, ChatGPT is taking, a collection of material from good scripts to bad scripts to horrible movies to good movies. So there's a huge pool of information flooding in and being pulled from all of this data. And what you get is an amalgamation of that, which, again, oftentimes is really shitty writing. What I can say is, like, sometimes I will be like, okay, I'm thinking of having my character be a police officer, but I don't really know much about police work. I want to know, like, how does it work with detectives going to someone's house to tell them that their loved one is dead? Like, how does that actually look like? How does that play out? That's something I will ask, because I don't have to go down a long rabbit hole of, like, Reddit threads or, like, random articles that don't quite answer the question that I'm asking, because sometimes, it's small things that are hard to find exact answers to on the internet. And again, if I were the Duffer brothers, where I had so many resources and so much fucking money, I could easily hire a cop to just come to the set and tell me everything I want to know, or pay someone to give me the information or interview with so that I can get those details for writing my script. Those are all things that you can do when you have money and resources, which I don't. So, have I utilized it? Yes. What I will also say is that I do not utilize it anymore. I have some old chat things that I have, like, again, for a screenplay that I've rewritten like 6 times, and I'm still rewriting it because I'm a fucking perfectionist and I can't, like, let something go until it's like, this is a masterpiece, in my opinion. So I do have, like, sometimes when I do rewrites, I'll go back and, like, look at what I've already talked to the chat about and saved responses from. But I think, because I've read about, the water shortages and data centers being placed all around the fucking world, and being horrible for the environment, destroying communities, taking jobs away, also it's threatening to take my jobs away, of, like, it's taking over the creative field, and that is horrifying to me and sad, and it's not something that I think anybody should be supporting. Though I will say I do understand, again, like, I think when it's something that's being shoved down your throat from, jobs want you to use it, corporations, schools, social media, your neighbor next door telling you all about the ChatGPT. Like, there's so many pushes for the use of it and the utilization of AI, and I do understand why people use it. But that, again, does not fucking excuse the Duffer brothers using it. Why are they using it when they have so many fucking resources? They have better resources than a fucking data center of information, both right and wrong, or good and bad. Like, again, they could hire experts to sit in a room with them. It would be like paying them for a coffee. Like, that's, or paying for a coffee for them. Like, that, it's nothing. And, like, again, it's just like, I do understand that it is something that's being pushed onto everyone right now, and I get that. But I think it's quite obvious they were using it for a bit more than what most people that are doing creative jobs are using it for, which is just to, like, ask simple questions. I think that that's, you know, what is, I guess, the better of use of it, if you're gonna use it, is to just, like, ask your one question that you really can't get anywhere else. But I also think that you probably can, especially if you have $500 million to work with for a fucking episode. Are you kidding me? I'm just, it's so disappointing. It really is so disappointing. And I think that, like, it just goes to show, like, okay, if the Duffer brothers are using it, like, you bet your ass a lot of Hollywood's fucking using it. And it's showing. It's really showing in the quality, I think, of a lot of shows and movies, especially in the past few years. I feel like while there has been, I think, a lot of beautiful films that have been made, you know, a lot of artistic, beautiful, creative films, there has also been a lot of films that I think strongly utilized AI, and very evidently so. And there are things that I see that I recognize of, like, there's certain things that ChatGPT does that I notice. One of which is they always use dashes and sentences. It's just funny to me. It's literally every sentence that they, like, provide you with has a dash in it, which is just not, like, a super common thing to use when writing. So it's kind of odd that that's what they use in, like, every fucking sentence they send. And again, it's like, it's something where I would never take writing that it's provided me, because it's bad. It's real bad. I remember the first time that I got ChatGPT, I was, like, writing something, and I wanted to see what it would do. I was curious. And I had it write a scene for me, and I was trying to have it help me write a scene of, like, flirting happening, because it was at a time before I had a relationship, and I never dated when I was younger, so I was like, I literally don't fucking know how to flirt, and I don't know what it even looks like outside of corny ass movies, so, like, can you help me with the dialogue? The dialogue was horrible, even more corny than I could have found in, like, a Hallmark movie. So I was just like, yeah, not using this again. And I'm glad that I came to that realization very early on. Because I do think that there's probably a lot of people that start using it and then they get very comfortable using it, and it's hard to let it go. And I do get it. Like, again, you have a resource that's very easy to use and at your fingertips for free. I get it. But I do think that we all collectively need to start pushing back against it. But again, I also believe that, you know, in my personal opinion, it's not necessarily your everyday Joe Schmoes that are the problem. It's your massive corporate companies that are using it and pushing all of their workers to use it. It's the entire film industry replacing screenwriters with AI scripts, and you know, again, like it's very high up people or very wealthy or very huge corporations that are causing the most damage here. I think that with most things. Same with, you know, or like, you know, how like Taylor Swift likes to destroy the planet with her private jet, but, you know, then it's like us Joe Schmoes that are like, oh, we have to make sure to care about the environment. Like, maybe we should be looking at the rich billionaires that are causing the most damage here, because... Anyways, sorry. It's the wine. It's making me a little salty. My camera is going to die soon. So I am just going to end this by saying I would love to hear your thoughts. And, you know, if I miss stuff, like, let me know. I would love to talk about it. I love talking about it. And... yeah, I really hope that there's a new good show to make me forget about this bad one. Anyways, have a good night, my loves. I will see you for the next one. Bye. Did Elle's mother just end up in the chair, like fried to death, like with her brain fried for the rest of her life? Is that just the end for her? Like, they never went back to that. They never touched back on like Will's dad's existence. What's another one? Let's just go down the list of the characters, shall we? We've got, 11. I'm glad they brought her sister back, so at least that episode can pretend that it had a point other than trying to do a spin-off that failed epically. I'm glad they brought her back. Don't think they utilized her well, though, because she literally was just there to convince Elle to kill herself. Like, fuck off. Terribly utilized. Could have done so much more with that ending. Again, disappointing. Then you have, again, Elle's mother. I guess she's just fucking sitting at her sister's house for the rest of her life in a rocking chair. I was like hoping there would be some ending where, like, I don't know, 11 is able to somehow fix her or like something. I was hoping for something, and there was no like Elle going back and just being with her mom to close out the show. Nothing. It's just kind of like fucking sad. What else do we have? They did nothing with Murray for the ending, really. That was kind of disappointing. Robin's character, is she still with her girly pop? I fucking hope so, because I love her. She just disappeared from the ending. That was kind of disappointing. Jonathan and Nancy, I mean, I didn't want them to end up together, but like, their ending was kind of bleak. I kind of did want her to end up with Steve, but then I also, when they decided to not have that, I was like, you know what, that makes sense. Nancy's a like strong, independent woman, and like she does deserve better than these two shitheads. Like, yeah. Still kind of disappointing, you know. Who else? There's so many. What about Dustin's girlfriend? Is he still with his girlfriend? I hope so. I liked her. Like, she's just gone. There's probably more. But that's where I'm gonna end it. Anyways, good night.